Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you my favorite standalones. So these are my top 5 favorite standalones of all time. I had a lot more in here, but I really had to think hard to narrowing it down to my top 5. So I really am a big fan of standalones. I think if done well, standalones can be a really good kind of way of kind of making you satisfied with the ending but also wanting more, and I think that's what I really enjoy. Like sometimes some things just wrap up really nicely and then sometimes they do, but there's still a little bit of mystery, and I really like not knowing what's going on, like what happens after the book concludes. So these are my top 5 favorite standalones. So first I have The Bone Garden by Tess Gerritsen, and this is a book that I read 2 years ago, and honestly it is amazing. So it follows this woman who just buys this very old, like 200-year-old house in Boston, and she's doing some yard work and she stumbles upon this buried body, basically the skeleton in her garden, and so she is very much like upset by this, and she's trying to investigate kind of how these remains were there. They're dated back to the 1800s, so while she's trying to figure out what's going on, we follow Rose, who's a woman growing up in Boston during the 1800s, and there's these series of murders taking place and she is somehow kind of thrown in the middle of it. So this one was so good. I really loved kind of the historical aspect mixed with the mystery, and I think that was really what's unique. Tess Gerritsen is probably one of my favorite authors of all time. She wrote the Recieve and I series, so I had really high expectations going into this, but this one blew me away. Between this one and Gravity, these are my favorite of her standalone books, and what I really like about this though is it kind of just ends and you're like, oh my god, like what just happened? Like it's so intense. Like the last bit is like quite crazy. I genuinely really loved this, and I think you guys would too if this is kind of more of your genre that you like to read. But it was just really good, and it just is like you read the book and you feel satisfied with the ending, but then you wonder out what happened to these characters afterwards. So yeah, if you are kind of a fan of this genre, and or if you're interested, I highly recommend you check this book out. It was honestly amazing. So next I have The Alice Network by Kate Quinn, and this is a book that I read last summer and I honestly fell in love with it. So it kind of has a dual storyline over the course of World War I and World War II. So we follow Eve, who was a spy during World War I, and her story, and then kind of in the present day of the book, which is post World War II, we follow Charlie, who's kind of on a hunt to find out what happened to her cousin who just went missing during the war, and her paths kind of cross with Eve, and then it kind of takes off from there. But this one, this was one book that I read at the perfect time. Like I discussed in like books that changed my life. This was definitely one of them, just because I read it like right after my grandmother passed away, and this was a good distraction. I was so invested in this storyline. Like it kind of allowed me to kind of remove myself from my grief and revest my kind of mind and kind of be involved in this world. But I really love how there's all these different storylines woven together, and then they kind of reach their like climax and then it ends. And I really love this book. Like I said, the ending was just amazing, and we do get a little cameo in The Huntress, which is Kate Quinn's like newest book, of one of the characters in here. So it's not the end of these characters, but I definitely really love this story and the characters, and just kind of seeing the relationship between Eve and Charlie kind of grow over the course of the book. I think that was definitely my favorite part. But this one is just an amazing standalone. Like it will leave you breathless and speechless and all of those things like a good book should. So yeah, I highly recommend you check this one out as well. So next I have Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. I read this when it came out, like I want to say like at least 3 years ago. I want to say it came out in 2015, but I could be totally wrong. But it basically follows this community in a very kind of highly affluent town in Australia, and like there was a murder that took place at one of the school's events, and so the book kind of summarizes like kind of commentary from the people that observed things while it happens, like after the murder, and then kind of the events leading up to it. And so this one was just crazy. Like I really like the TV show as well. The TV show did a really good job. But in this case, it's just the one book and done, while the series TV show is just a continuation kind of building its new storyline kind of separate from the book. But I really love this, I think, because it ends so abruptly and it's just like, oh my god, like the murder took place and you just find out kind of briefly what happens, and it's just like, oh my goodness. But this one is a really good kind of social commentary on the just kind of snobbiness and like politics within the parents of a school. I don't think it has to be like a really rich school or area, but I feel like that happens everywhere. So it was really nice just kind of seeing that commentary, and I think it was really done well. And like there's so many characters here, and it's just like, oh my goodness, like I was so like in love with this book, and the TV show is really good as well. So if you haven't already, check both of these things out. They were really, really good. So this is one case where the book did not do a good job at summing up everything, and if you've read this book or seen the movie, you would know why. And it is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I think I read this when it first came out, like a long time ago. I remember reading it and I was just like, oh my goodness. Oh, 2014. I got this in 2014. So like I read it that summer, and I like, if you guys read this, you know basically how it ends, but I think I love the fact that it ends so abruptly and you're like, but you can't just end there. Like I think like those make really good standalones where it's just like, oh my god, like what just happened, and like you can't leave it like there. So I really like that from a writing perspective. As a reader, it's a little like you don't feel like you get a lot of closure, but I think from a writing standpoint it was really well done, and it was just like so many twists and turns, so many plot points, like, and I don't know, like it's so intense, and like I don't know how you could have like that thinking to actually like do that. I think that's crazy to even come up with this. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It really plays on a lot of stereotypes of women and how we're supposed to be a certain way, and like all this other stuff. Like it is just, there's so many thematical elements in here. If you haven't already, check this out. It's honestly as good as everyone says it is. So lastly, this is a book that I really enjoyed, but in general I really just think all of these authors like published works I think are really good standalones. And so I have The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton. As I said, like I have my Kate Morton books like right here, just a little bit out of frame, but all of them are still really, really good. This one is a historical fiction dual storyline, so it follows this girl who, when she was really young, witnessed this murder that took place on her front porch, basically, that her mother ended up killing some random guy, and like it was not discussed about in this family until the mother is on her deathbed and she has a little bit of dementia. And so this kind of rehashes it, and she was the oldest of the siblings, so they didn't know like this happened, so she's trying to investigate why her mother would do that. So it kind of takes place during World War II as well, with that storyline of the mother growing up as well. But this one was so good. I was highly like invested in these characters, and I really like, there's one character in particular that I was really attached to, and you are trying to figure out and piece together these pieces of this mother's life with the daughter as well. And I think she did a really good job at kind of, you aren't told what happens, you are learning it and figuring out with the daughter as well. And I think that's what I really enjoy with Kate Morton's books. You're kind of figuring it out with the characters, like the mystery as well. So yeah, if you haven't already, just pick up a Kate Morton book. Like this one and The Forgotten Garden are probably my favorites. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend you check out this author if you are a fan of historical fiction with a little bit of mystery. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite standalones are and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.